Let's talk to Craig Beazley, who's from the Up the Cherries in All Departments podcast. Craig, how you doing?
Hello, Ollie. Hello, Perry.
Hello,
Hope you're
Craig.
doing well.
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. How are you doing? Because we just said there, losing all those key players from last
Mm.
season. Are you a bit concerned?
To be honest, we always knew Dean Huijsen was going to go to Real Madrid. There was this stipulation in his contract when he signed that, allowed him to leave to a bigger club for 50 million. And hey, he used us as a stepping stone, but at the same time, he was fantastic. What I am concerned about, though, is not so much Kerkez because that's been rumbling on. We've signed Adrian Treffer
Mm.
from Rennes, who is an out-and-out replacement. I spoke to Alejo Rivera, who is effectively the Martin Tyler of Argentine football, and he was saying that Julio Sola, our Argentine 19-year-old left back, is actually, of a similar sort of quality as Kerkez. Of course, I don't think at this point he probably is. So hence the reason why we've signed Trevor.
Has he got a mullet?
He hasn't, no,
he's
but
got to have a mullet.
Yes, Steve.
he seems like an exciting player. We saw him against West Brom in the FA Cup last season. We saw him in the last game of the season. Julio Soler looks very, very good. However, Zabarnyi is the one that worries me, and we are, like you say, being decimated at the back. And the biggest concern for me is that Iraola has brought in these players. He's made them better. The likes of Justin Kluivert. I went over to Ajax back in April, and I spoke to a couple of people around there, and they were saying about Justin Kluivert, how he should have stayed at Ajax and not gone on this trip around Europe, where he couldn't really find his place. He's found his place at Bournemouth. Of course, there's talks about him. With Zabarnyi, likewise, I think it would be a bad move for the player. He doesn't want to effectively, warm the bench at PSG. And it leads to my concerns over the manager, Iraola. He is probably the biggest loss of all. So yes, whilst I am worried about the defensive line, we do have James Hill. We've got Chris Metham still on the books. I think we'll probably sell him to Sunderland. Adam Smith is getting no younger. There is concerns ahead of next season, to be honest, guys.
Craig, but you've sort of been in this position before because you lost Dominic Solanke, obviously he was your top scorer, and he goes to Spurs, then Evan Nilsson, then Unes Unal comes in and he does his ACL. So with your manager, surely on that side you're going to trust the recruitment, because Bournemouth are a stepping stone club because of those players that you mentioned have performed so well. The big boys are going to come in. Now, you're getting, for Huijsen, you're getting 50 million quid. As long as that money goes back in to the transfer kitty for Andoni Iraola, because Bill Foley, like your owner, he took a lot of stick, obviously, when Gary O'Neill was sacked and then Andoni Iraola come in. So I think you have to trust the owners that they actually know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. What you got to think as well is with Huijsen, 15 million of that fee has to go over to Juventus. So they are actually owed that because of the sale. So there is stipulations in that as well. But it is a respectable profit that we've made on him. But, we do trust our recruitment side. Simon Francis and Thiago Pinto have done a fantastic job of actually finding these young players, bringing these young players through, and then Iraola actually improves them as players. And to be honest, famously, I was one of the people after Iraola went on that poor run at the start of his first season who said, I don't think that, although I think Iraola's style was good, and was, in that Spanish style of pass, control the game, I didn't think it was going to work. Iraola's proved me wrong, and he has made it work, and he's improved these players tenfold. This is the biggest concern for me, as a fan of this football club, but for these players as well, is that Iraola as a man manager is first class. Absolutely first class. these players, may not hit the ground running at their next clubs. They may not, progress at the same rate as they have done with Bournemouth. I don't think Solanke has really pulled up any trees at Spurs. I've got to be perfectly honest.
Injuries, doesn't he? But
he has. But I really do respect Dominic Solanke, and I think he's a fantastic player. But I think that Iraola got the best out of him. Whereas if you watch back, did Gary O'Neill get the best out of him? Did Scott Parker was at a lower level.
Different styles of play, Craig, wasn't it? That's why. Because under Iraola, you're on the front foot, you want to press, and he's not frightened to do it against the big teams. Obviously, did brilliant against Arsenal, obviously ended Man City's run, and gave Ollie's Newcastle an absolute schooling at St James's Park.
He just had to get that in, Craig, I'm afraid.
Without a centre forward.
It's just pure bullying there from Perry.
The funny thing is, I've said this before to so many people, and I'll say it again. What is strange about Bournemouth nowadays is we dictate how we play games. We are on the front foot, as you say.
Yeah, that's true.
We are progressive. We are controlling the game. Whereas in the previous spell in the Premier League, I would say 4 of the 5 seasons, maybe in the 5th season, just before COVID hit. And of course, when COVID hit, it threw us. I don't think our preparation was that great, hence the reason why we got relegated. We had to kind of counteract what the other team were doing. We were coming up against better players with the likes of, and this is no disrespect to those players because they are absolute legends at this football club, but the likes of Steve Cook, I know Steve very, very well, but Steve Cook is in a completely different ball game to Dean Huijsen and Illia Zabarnyi.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he'll forgive me for saying that.
No, right.
You look at the players that we had to counteract against a team like Arsenal, against Manchester United, against Man City. And we had to think, how is the best way of getting a result out of this game? Whereas nowadays, against Arsenal at the Emirates, we dictated that game.
Yeah,
we was in complete control. I know that we did concede first, but we come back by playing that same game. We did the same against Arsenal at home and also against Man City. And so many teams, Forest, all right, Forest were a surprise package last season, but we demolished them 5-0, and then they went to Brighton and thrashed them 7-0. So this is the sort of style and the sort of game that Iraola plays. So yes, I am concerned about the loss of players. The biggest loss, though, of all would be Andoni Iraola, and I just hope he would not go to another side. To be honest, Perry, the one team I can see him going to in this country, I can see him going abroad, but the one team I can see him going to out of anybody is Arsenal because they play a similar sort of style. I think if Arteta is sacked, I think Iraola will go in there and he will make a success of that football club. But don't get too excited. I hope he just stays here at Bournemouth.
So do I, because it means Arteta's doing well and we've won the Premier League. So,
Bournemouth beat you
so
twice
we'll
again.
both be happy bunnies, Craig.
Craig, thank you very much indeed, mate.
My pleasure.
Cheers,
Pleasure.
Craig.
Thank you so much.
There we go. Craig Beazley there from the Up the Cherries in All Departments podcast. So I appreciated Craig getting those 2 defeats.
On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.